Good afternoon, Pierre.
Good afternoon, John.
Excellent. How are you today?
Very well. How are you?
Yeah, not bad, thank you. Absolutely looking forward to recording your CTO News Thursday vlog series. You know, autonomous vehicles is an absolute, or as I say, an area of interest that I am keen to learn more about you and your journey and Coast Autonomous. So it's an absolute pleasure to have you join us on this CTO News Thursday vlog series. So to begin with, can I ask you to please introduce yourself to our audience?
Thank you, John. My pleasure to be there. I'm Pierre Lefevre. I'm the CTO of Coast Autonomous and one of the three founders.
Brilliant. Excellent. Okay. So for the past 28 years, since you took the lead in developing the first connected car, i.e. that was for Microsoft Clarion Auto PC in 1998 for Bill Gates at Microsoft, which was back in 1995. Can you please walk us through your career journey in a connected car space prior to Coast Autonomous up to 2017?
Yes, sure. Look, first of all, the experience with Citroën and Microsoft in 95 to 98 was extremely foundational for everything I did after. You have to remember in 95, we barely had some mobile phones, very start of it, no internet on it, no data on the mobile phone, no text message, just some voice. And at the lead of Citroën, we had a lot of talk on the idea that in the near future, a private vehicle will become more a wheel telephone booth than a transportation tool. So that means that at that time already, which is some time ago, the OEMs were looking for services inside and outside the car, disrelated from the car itself. It means that their future was very linked to very special service, different from changing the tires and so on. So after this very good experience of connected cars and developing the Auto PC, I started to develop some GPS tracking system, mostly for fleet management, because it was a way to reduce the travel, improve the fleet management, and improve efficiency for companies. And we did very interesting development on that, up to providing a system to manage 2,000 taxis in Paris in 2000. Very good experience. After that, when I heard about the DARPA challenge in 2004, which was really the first real concept of autonomous vehicle launched by the American Defense, the idea of going for autonomous vehicle was just natural. And from 2004, we have been working on that. The idea was still how to reduce congestion and get more efficient transportation, both for businesses and city centers.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can see the need with all the various bits of pollution and just the need to decongest city centers and environments. So absolutely, you can see the need that your solution is solving. Excellent. So that really leads us to the next question, which is, obviously you gave us an introduction to Coast Autonomous, but specifically, what challenge are you solving within that connected car space?
Yeah, first of all, we didn't have a technology that we tried to apply to something. We developed our technology because the purpose was give the city back to pedestrians and not to cars. That's really the main objective, of course. That being said, on the side, we have today a more important activity, which is solving industrial use cases with autonomous vehicles to improve its efficiency or safety inside yards, industrial yards, or universities, or things like that.
Brilliant. Okay. So absolutely, we can understand the passion. And from what I've understood, the passion is about reducing the impact of cars in inner cities. Obviously, what was your vision in terms of where did you see this environment could potentially lead to? And are there other use cases that your solution can solve?
Yeah, so you have two questions here, but
Yeah.
both are very interesting. Look, something happened in the last 25, 30 years, and it's called internet. And internet changed more than what we can see now, because not only it changed the way we get information, but it always also changed the way people interact with each other. I mean, before you had a friend, before World War II, you had a friend in the village or in a small city. And traveling to the city was a real travel. I remember my grandparents, they would travel once a week to the city, which is 12 miles away. So you would have friends and a community inside the village. Today with internet, you have friends, they can be in Japan, China, wherever. You don't know where your friends are. So the need of transportation is completely, absolutely different, Mm-hmm. And why do you need to move? Either it's to work in a plant, but there are less and less people working in plants, or it is to go to holidays.
Yeah.
But mostly so why do we use private cars? It's mostly because the city has been designed with private cars. It's not because we need them. So yeah. The redesign of city is now obvious. We can see by numerous references that people would prefer to live in a walkable city. Walkable city is a city where you can go for entertainment, food, meeting people, whatever, by walking. So walking means you may still need some transportation. You could have an autonomous vehicle of any shape, like an autonomous Segway would be great. If you could call a Segway and jump on it, it would be very useful. But shuttles or things like that will transform the way we live in the city. And it's something that is requested. You can see that when you live in London, you don't want to have a car, you don't want to park it, you don't want to pay for the parking, and you would prefer to just walk and jump in the train to go to the airport. So I truly believe that it's a good opportunity now to change the relationship with transportation and with private cars, especially. And the walkable city will bring that.
Yeah, absolutely. We can, in London, which is where I'm based, what we found is that the roads have got they've got smaller, and they've got smaller, allowing for, say, for example, single lane traffic, and then you've got another lane which is dedicated to public transport, i.e., buses, etc. And it does. I mean, I think it does. It will head towards that at some stage, possibly to look at autonomous vehicles for whether it be short distance commutes in cities, and for those who need it as well. So absolutely, I can see, we can see the benefit and the reasoning behind it. Excellent. So that being said, how many self-driving vehicle tests has your organization conducted around the world to date?
So I don't have the exact answer on that. What I know is since 2011, we have been testing all over the world for many reasons. But the behavior on the road are very, very different from one country to the other. Obviously, between the US and UK or France, the way to drive is very different. But if you go in Philippines, it's again totally different. I remember when we were testing in Philippines, not testing, I mean, by the way, it was a real pilot to move athletes for the Southeast Asian Games. There was an intersection with a stop. And of course, our shuttle would stop at the top. And every time the passenger would say, why do you stop? Is there a problem? And we were the only vehicle to stop at the stop.
Wow.
Line, there is no. So the behaviors are absolutely different. It's very important if you want to have a good technical solution to be able to test and see with different behaviors. So you have the behaviors, you have also the weathers. We have been driving under a typhoon in the Philippines. We've been driving in Switzerland with snow. And of course, in Florida, where I used to stay now, we also have huge storms that are very useful for the test. And so I believe we tested in more than 80 different sites, either for a week or for 6 months or for a few years on different environments, both in Asia, Europe, US, and so on.
Brilliant.
And
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can imagine that was amazing in the sense of, you know, looking at scenario that you're looking to create, whether it be, you know, getting some, I don't know, bricks from A to B, or much heavier sort of transportation needs from a particular location. So absolutely understood. Excellent. So
we did stupid test. We had a project in Strasbourg, France, where we had to drive a 25 miles an hour fleet of shuttles on a high-speed street, which doesn't make sense. We proved it doesn't make sense.
Wow.
But we did it for 6 months. That was part of a European project.
Right.
So we had a lot of different environments.
Yeah. So what's the maximum speed then? You said 25 miles per hour. Have you gone past that in terms of as an autonomous test sort of drive, or?
Yeah, of course we did. When was that? I think it was 2012.
Right.
We had a blind driver to drive a car at up to 50 miles an hour.
Wow.
And it was an interesting test. The guy wanted to drive, and he was driving by himself. So we used the robotics perception to give him the information to accelerate, turn, and so on. So he did on a racetrack. It did drive at up to I think 50 miles an hour.
Wow.
So we are not limited in speed. Our system, our robotic system, will decide the speed at which it can drive, depending on the environment and the type of vehicle.
Gotcha.
If you have people standing in a bus, you know that the passenger will lose balance if you decelerate more than 1.5 meters per second square.
Yeah.
So that means that if we have people standing, the vehicle will have to be able to stop before an obstacle without decelerating more than 1.5, or extreme emergency would be 3.5 or something like that. And that defines the speed. So even if you put 100 miles an hour, the system will stay safe and take care of the environment and the type of vehicle. And why do we have standing people inside the vehicle? It's because of a very interesting European study 20 years ago. The most efficient way to move people in city centers is to have small vehicles from 10 to 14 people, where people can jump on and out very fast, where you don't ask them to put the seatbelt before you start again, but then you drive slower. But you drive slower, but you have a small vehicle arriving every 2 minutes. It's much more efficient than having a big bus of 70 passengers that will arrive every 20 minutes and has to stay at the station for 2 or 3 minutes because the last guy at the end of the bus we need to find a door to exit, you know? So
Yeah.
that's the efficiency. And as a result, also, it's much more pedestrian friendly because if you have a vehicle running at 15 miles an hour, it is the pedestrian to cross or not cross, a bit like a light rail inside the city. You know, they are low speed, but they are very efficient. So that's why we have standing passengers. That being said, if we have a vehicle with seat belts and we don't risk to have a pedestrian crossing all the way, we can ride much faster.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I absolutely agreed. Absolutely agreed. We do see that. You know, we've got trams in the UK, which I'm sure you've got in whether it be in France or in Florida, and you know, you still have that sort of pedestrian walking over. It's still pedestrianized, if that makes sense. So we can absolutely see that environment. Excellent. Okay, so Coast Robotics software is the jewel in the crown for your organization. Please, can you share insights about some of the benefits your software can provide, i.e. around vehicle steering, acceleration, braking, and avoiding obstacles? You have touched on this shortly prior to, you know, just briefly earlier, but it'd be good just to, if you could share a bit more insight, because that must be quite unique in terms of the key USP to your solution, being your software.
Yeah, you're right. That's very interesting part of what we do. And the most interesting part is what we ask the software to do. We ask the software to do 2 things, maybe 3. First one, safe. I mean, we developed a full stack and truly starting by being safe. That means that the default status of our vehicle is being stopped. When everything is working, it's moving. So stay with me, it moves a lot, but it's safe. It's being designed not like a car, but designed like a machine. I don't know if you are aware, but in the world, we kill, I think, 1.2 million people every year with cars, which is very strange. But with machine, I think it's 33.
Wow. Didn't know that.
We have a lot of machines. Huh? So machines are very safe.
Yeah.
But in a car, of course, we have a lot of safety inside the electronic of the car. But at the end, if your brake line stops working, you driver are responsible to find a way to safely stop the car. Yeah. And you are always the safety redundancy in the car. Yeah. In our system, it's designed as a machine and to be safe at every level of the system. First one. Second one is passenger experience. So really, our system is being designed for passenger experience. It means that it has to be smooth. It has to be efficient, but always smooth and not scary and so on. So as a result, it's extremely boring. When we consider a vehicle is very good, when it's not a big adventure to get in or to run it, it's just a normal machine, and it's exactly as an elevator. Yeah, extremely boring. But our system is designed exactly for this. Yeah, absolutely. Do what it has to do well and smoothly.
Yeah. No, I get it. I think from what you shared as well, it's the more laborious the requirement and the more sort of repetitive and just straight-natured, requirement, whether it be from getting from A to B, that's the solution that you're solving. It's not necessarily to providing you with a Ferrari as an autonomous vehicle, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, truly. Look, I love Ferrari. when I have time, I go on racetracks to play with cars. But it's another game. It's not transportation. It's a game.
Yeah. Absolutely. Okay. So please can you talk about, and this really leads us to the next question, which is, please can you talk about Coast Autonomous Cost P1 prototype, which was trialed at Times Square in Manhattan, USA?
Yes, it was a great adventure. You know, the only autonomous vehicle that ever drove in Manhattan, because you cannot, it's illegal to drive in Manhattan unless you are at Times Square. Look, I love Manhattan. There are a few cities that I really love. It's London, Paris, and Manhattan. It's always a great experience to be there. And I spent hours watching the street from higher viewpoint. You know, in Manhattan, you can do that a lot.
Yeah.
And you have roads with 3 lanes, one way, 3 lanes, and 1 middle lane for some cars, and the side lanes for trucks, delivery trucks, most of the day. It's crazy. I mean, it doesn't make any sense to drive a car inside Manhattan.
Wow.
And when I'm in Manhattan, I never use a car. I walk, I use underground, sometimes a taxi, but mostly not. And I love so much the city. For me, it's the exact place where we should have autonomous shuttle or segways or bicycle or whatever, but no car or no trucks, by the way. Trucks should not enter to deliver the way they do. It's ridiculous to have a heavy truck delivering a small package to a shop inside Manhattan. It's a waste of energy, time, and everything. So driving autonomously in the Times Square, Manhattan, was really something we were looking for, because it's really where we think it should be applied. And Broadway now is mostly pedestrian. It's great. It's a great place to go.
Yeah. I have been to the US, but I haven't spent that much time in Manhattan. And but from what I hear, you know, I can imagine that when you arrive, as you mentioned, you've got the 3 lanes, and then you've got your deliveries on the right-hand side, you know, basically on the outer, basically near the curb.
Left and right. Left and right. Yeah, everywhere.
Yeah. Amazing. Well,
you have to visit, man. You should go. It's a great city.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, I hope you get more traction there as well with your autonomous vehicles.
Excellent. Yeah, it will happen. Yeah.
Excellent.
To deliver the service where it's needed and when it's needed.
Yeah.
It's a big part of what we do is to have some idle vehicle at the right spot so they can jump in. And again, we are looking for different formats. We have our system applies to shuttles, golf carts, ATVs, and many types of different shapes. The shape of the vehicle doesn't matter so much.
No, I hear you. Okay.
But that's a thing we've been working a lot in 2000 with this taxi reservation system, where we had a system to optimize the positioning of the taxis to take care of the potential passengers, depending of the weather, the events in different areas of the city in Paris, and so on, and to pre-position the taxis at the right place with all the data that we learned from the days before and the year before and so on.
Yeah. No, I understand. Yeah, optimizing the data that enables you then to optimize your routes or the autonomous vehicle that's been serviced in that area. Yeah. Okay. Please, can you explain what happened in Greenwich, England in 2015, and how did that experience affect Coast Autonomous connected car development?
So again, I love London, and we were in France. We are looking to do something in London.
Yeah.
And we found this great development at Greenwich Peninsula. That's a fantastic urban development.
Yeah.
Over probably 20 years, creating an environment for workers and people to live with the O2 venue, and you have the underground arriving, you have a cable to cross the Thames, you have the Clipper boat to go inside London. And for me, there should not be any vehicle on the peninsula, but autonomous shared vehicle to move people. It's a limited distance, but still sometimes you need so it's very good to walk. I used to walk it here, but sometimes you have big luggage or something. It would be very useful to have a shuttle to get in. So we brought a shuttle in 2015, and we tested for about a year, and studied how it could be implemented in London. It was great relationship with the city and the people from Greenwich. I'm still looking to develop something with
you absolutely should. You should also possibly consider, I don't know if you had a chance to speak with the likes of Transport for London and seeing whether collaborations could be made there. So that's probably a route that you may want to consider when you're.
I do. Our president is living in Wales, and
right, got you.
We want to develop in London.
In London, okay. Do you think there'll be a time where there'll be more autonomous vehicles versus cars for pedestrians or for consumers?
Yeah, look, I hope we will not replace private cars by autonomous vehicles. This for me don't make any sense. If we end up there, we will have completely missed the game. But yes, I think the vehicle will be autonomous. All the vehicle will use will be autonomous in, I don't know, maybe 1 or 2 decades. We will still, hopefully, we'll still have toys to play on a racetrack or off-road. But that will be toys, not transportation tools. And yes, I think that we will find a lot of different shapes for the right mobility at the right place, and they will be autonomous because you need them 24/7, because being a driver is not so much fun. You could do much more funny things, especially when there are not enough workers for everything that can be done. Yes, truly, for sure. But I don't believe it will be the shape that the industry is envisioning now. It's not a private car.
It's more of a communal commuter sort of service provider in a sense. It's more for the masses, basically. Understood.
Look, it's for everybody, but it should be adapted to the new way to live. I mean,
no, I hear you. Brilliant. Okay, so what do you do to stay calm with technology?
I read a lot. Since I'm a kid, I read everything I can, and I love reading. I'm very bad at watching movies. I sleep when I start, but I read. I read. I meet people, and I'm very interested by a lot of subjects. I also believe in the fact that you should have information from different fields and technologies, and good skill is to, people are very good in a lot of different areas. And sometimes it's very useful to have a lot of information and that help find solutions.
Absolutely agreed. Yeah. Building your personal knowledge library, as they say. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and I remember when we started this development in 2004, you could not hire a student who had studied, of course, autonomous vehicles because it didn't exist.
Mm.
And we didn't want people who were only computer guys.
Yeah.
So the story was to hire people who had different background
Mm-hmm.
and also some computer knowledge.
Yeah.
Brought a lot to the system.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I hear you. Yeah, yeah. It's always the way. It's like you have to, what is it? It's train the trainer, as they say. That's something that we sort of adapt in here at IT Labs. Okay.
Yeah.
So which technology most interests you?
You won't believe it, but it's the technology by which you are able to analyze data. So I'm not talking about AI or this, I'm even talking about the opposite. It's how you make differences, how you differentiate data and get the most important one at the right time. You know, too much data, you're lost.
Yeah.
Because the common denominator of too much data is very low. You have nothing. You have nothing new on too much data.
Yeah.
If you just look at the common denominator. But finding the important data at the right time leads to solutions.
Yeah.
And that's very important to be able to make the difference.
Yeah, to find it, to pinpoint that's
That's
really important.
Differentiate, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
For me, that's the most important thing to solve any use case, any problem we have.
Yeah. So Pierre, what is your superpower?
I don't know if I have one, but probably is to observe and then organize the information. What I love the most is going to a new customer or a new site and just watch, observe, and see how we could improve something.
Yeah.
So the most efficient the customer is, the most interesting it is to try to improve something.
Yeah.
And I love that. But I learned a lot. I learned a lot of different jobs. And it's fascinating the way you can bring something to improve, again, either the efficiency or the safety or productivity, whatever.
Yeah. No, I hear you. And those are great superpowers.
Yeah, that's really what we do at course, and that's what we love.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. And now this brings me to that final question, which is, what do you do outside of work in your spare time? And I do know that you have a quite an extensive background in racing, car racing. So yeah, it'd be great to learn more about that and what you do in your spare time.
Yeah. So in my spare time, I mostly read. I read a lot. I love that.
Yeah.
I used to play a lot of music. Now I just listen classical music a lot. But and the rest of the time, right? My favorite thing is to race cars. So when I can, I jump in a car. But I also do some boating. You know, here in Florida, it's very nice to have a small. It gives a lot of space and new viewpoint when you go on the sea, even for 2 hours trip with a small boat.
Yeah.
And I bicycle or motorcycle. That's all. So what all I do.
Brilliant. What type of motorcycles do you into? Do you like?
Look, I moved from France to US. So I had to have a Jeep and a Harley.
Amazing. Yes, absolutely.
I have one of each.
Yeah. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Yeah, why not? Why not? Ah, fantastic.
I know
Well,
it's not really a motorbike, but it's a word by itself, the
yeah,
Harley.
yeah. Well, here's another
But I would
question.
say my wife has a Royal Enfield, beautiful one.
Ah, okay. Yeah. Do you know, we've talked about autonomous vehicles, and what about autonomous vehicles that are on two wheels? Is that something you think that could take off?
Yeah, it could. I mean, at the DARPA Challenge 2005, Anthony Lewandowski came with a small motorbike that was working. So it's crazy for two reasons. One, because he had to manage
Yeah.
the verticality of the beast, but also it was very small.
Right.
And at that time, you had no, that was in 2003 maybe. At that time, you had trucks full of computers to try to make a car autonomous.
Right.
And he had this very small motorcycle with all the electronic on it. It was very efficient. That was so it's completely doable, yeah.
Brilliant.
I'm not sure it's energy efficient, but it's doable.
Yeah, yeah, and that's what we'd like to hear. I think, when you hear about, say, obviously, our conferences are steered towards sort of motorbikes, etc., but it's asking the question, is this achievable from an autonomous perspective? Can this deliver sort of real world sort of use case challenges? Can actually try and solve those environments for individuals and the general public, really? So it's great to hear that something was developed quite a long time ago that absolutely did work. Yeah, brilliant. Excellent. Well, Pierre, thank you very much for your time this afternoon. It's been an absolute pleasure learning more about you, your Coast Autonomous organization, and the more importantly, the challenges that you're trying to solve in inner cities by providing autonomous vehicles that reduces pollution and provides better, whether it be individual experience in those very communities. Let me hand over to you, please.
Thank you very much. It was really a pleasure to talk with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Pierre.